Okay, everything says I'm live, so let's assume I'm live. How's everyone going? Hello to you if you're watching this back later. I'm just get it set up. I haven't got the chat set up yet, so I'll have to. You see, Mimsy's joining me from the start. That's always popular, Mimsy and her fan club. But we shall see. Okay, hey, La Heretic, you are indeed the first to comment. Hey, Miss Foxification, how's it going? And hello, Luke. Gang's all here. Everyone's rocking up. Okay. And Brett, hello to you. And Deus Fertile. There you go. I've got my chat. Got to switch it from top chat to live chat. And hey, CrossFitter and Fox of Fate. Hello, hello, hello. Yes, I'm doing fine. Thank you. I hope you're all well. I think I've got all my windows in order now. Having an experiment here. I made a concoction. That's a pretty color on the camera. So I often complain my drinks don't look as good on the camera. I think this one actually looks a bit better. Looks a bit brighter. It's a orangey yellow. I made a concoction today. Hey, Biori, how's it going? It's like butterscotch, as in it's whiskey, and I found some rock candy that was called butterballs, and yeah, the main flavoring in it was sugar and butter, and of course, butterscotch, the candy, was actually made with whiskey flavoring back in the day. And I've gone the other way. I've used candy to flavor whiskey rather than whiskey to flavor candy. So that makes this basically an old-fashioned, which is like the world's simplest cocktail is really just sweetened whiskey. Oh, Biori, you've been, what do you mean? You didn't get to play 12 sessions, but you're playing Cards Against Humanity. That's okay. Hey, Catherine, to make a cocksucking cowboy shot. What's that? That's schnapps, isn't it? I'm not a huge fan of that, but I haven't tasted this yet. And I've got some bitters. So traditionally, an old-fashioned is just whiskey, your whiskey of choice, whether that be Scotch, bourbon, rye, or whatever, with either sugar or simple syrup. Now I've sweetened it with the rock candy and a dash of bitters. And I'm going to try it without bitters and then see how much difference to the flavor bitters make. Because I'm not a huge whiskey drinker. I like a whiskey sour. Oh. Wow, that's pretty good. That is actually pretty good. It's because I use Scotch whiskey, very smoky. I've been drinking, in terms of whiskey, mostly bourbon or rye, which is not smoky like Scotch. But that's half like drinking tequila, it's so smoky. Pura, your dungeon master had people over. Ah, damn. Okay, it's going to interfere with a player's character arc, so you got to save it for another day. Oh, having a fallback like Cards Against Humanity is a bit of fun. Aussie Miss Foxification, the cocksucking cowboy is butterscotch schnapps with Bailey's Irish cream. Not a huge fan of either Bailey's Irish cream or schnapps. But I guess this flavor's not like butterscotch. Here's my butterscotch. Anyway. It definitely, because I'm, as I said, I'm not really that much of a straight whiskey drinker. The sweetener took the edge off. I'm going to try this one I don't use often. One of the 100 sorts of bitters I have in the house. This is cola bitters, as in made from cola berries. Oh, let's see if you know the name of it. They're going to be in focus. They're called bitter bastards. I love some of the little boutique bitters makers. I've got one made by another one called The Bitter Truth. Yeah, that's okay. It doesn't smell too strong. So I'm going to put A couple spritzes of the bitters. And seeing, you know, Scotch and Coke you have often, maybe cola bitters would go well with it. I've not tried this before. We're experimenting. Everyone's bonding over missing D&D sessions. Fox of Fate missed one because of a cold. Yeah, it's pretty good. Fox of Fate, can cordial be used as a replacement for simple syrup? The thing about simple syrup is it doesn't have that much flavor, and a cordial is quite a strong flavor. It's a concentrated flavor. So you would be making a very, very different drink with a cordial than you would with simple syrup. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a different thing. And I do use cordials for some cocktails. I have a couple of nice cordials that I use sometimes in cocktails. See, the most straightforward simple syrup, which you can make at home, just put some water on the boil and add a fuck ton of sugar to it, so it's about 50% sugar. And there's not that much flavor in it. Hey, Jendai, by the way. So the simplest of simple syrups does not have that much flavor. It's just a sweetener. There are some variations of simple syrup that have more flavor, that give a different character to the drink. A popular one is called Orgeat. I'm not sure what grain that's made from. But I've got one from, or I've got some bog standard simple syrup. But I also got one from Costco. It's, God, my brain's gone blank. It's this one. Oh, sorry, Mindy. I meant to disturb you. Agave. I knew it was something to do. Agave is the same base that tequila's made from. Now, this has much more flavor, actually. It tastes a bit like golden syrup, if you know what that is. So both Orgeat and agave syrup have considerably more flavor than simple syrup does. And so it's going to give a drink a different character. But cordial is a very, very, very strong flavor. So you really only put cordial in a cocktail if you want it to basically dominate the flavor. Like I have a lime cordial that's quite good. That's good for the tropical ones. The tiki cocktails, you know, rum and lime is good. So, but I mean, I've got some other fruity cordials they had at the supermarket. I got an elderflower cordial. Elderflower is a very nice flavor in a lot of cocktails. And I mean, I've actually got that there. That's actually elderflower liqueur. That's alcoholic elderflower cordial, basically. And I've got some fruity ones as well, which are good if you're making fruity cocktails. Hey, David, how's it going? What the heck? Luke, up the last stream, a car went through a house across the road from your place. Dude, that is wild. That is a not usual experience. Oh, Feeler and Sealer, hi. So you sneak in there as well. It's a good sipping drink, this one. I'm not the type to scull a whiskey. I'm not a shots person. You hear people like, let's get a shot. Like, you only do shots if you're getting shit-faced. And I, as a general rule, try not to get absolutely milked, Alaska. You want me to come out of the closet and bang you? Dude, I'm going to have to disappoint you on that front. Like, even if I was gay or bi, I'm in a committed relationship. So I'm not banging anyone apart from Mrs. Angry. So flattered as always, but unfortunately not going to work in your favor, my friend. Oh, Jesus. Look, I just remember what you said. The guy who crashed into the house was actually doing burnouts. Oh, my God, what a fucking loser. I mean, I think just doing burnouts makes you a loser, but fucking up your burnout and crashing into a house, that's pretty fucking bad. Brett, you think I'll do shots on election night? not planning to, but I'm planning to get pretty fucking shit-faced. I mean, you know, the big celebration events looking forward to, if they happen, Dutton losing his seat, Abbott losing his seat, Frydenberg losing his seat, Christensen losing his seat. So basically, any high-profile shithead, if they lose their seat, I'm gonna celebrate, definitely. I like that, David. You're bisexual, and that the only way to get any is to buy it. Yep. Yeah, Miss Foxfahition. Hopefully, they had the CTP, the compulsory third-party insurance, so at least the house is covered by insurance. Musical activity, joke. The house jumped in front of you. I remember driving my brother in my youth because I wasn't drinking and he was. And as we were driving through town, we were going past the park and he goes, watch out as you go past this park. These trees, they have a tendency to run right out in front of you. That's happened to me a couple of times. So like, okay, duly noted. CrossFitter, Julian Assange got arrested. Womp womp. Wonder what's gonna happen to him. What does that arrest mean? Where's he going to end up? Dang. Ecuador. I can't believe Ecuador put up with him for 7 years because he's a fucking tool. So I don't know what that means with Assange being arrested, like, because of course there was the sexual assault charges. I don't think there's been any actual charge laid against him by the US, but there are some anti-whistleblower types in the US who've said quite extreme things against him. Maybe all the English are going to do is extradite him because he can't legally stay in Australia. Sorry, can't legally stay in England. So send him back to Australia. I don't with that rape allegation. I don't know if that's still being pursued. It should be, but I'm not sure if it is. We're going to get into conspiracies about Assange not making it Trump. I don't know. Assange is a massive fan of Trump's and went out of his way to attack Clinton and undermine the Clinton campaign through WikiLeaks. I mean, yeah, just because Clinton's one of the ones who said that he should be arrested and face serious charges. The big question is Chelsea Manning going to be free? Last I heard, Manning was being held in solitary confinement. Grant, I don't know a thing about statute of limitations. So when was the incident? It was like 9 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm honestly not sure what the dealio is with those charges. Not sure how aggressively the US is going to chase him, because as I said, he was very active and open in his support of Trump and attacks on Clinton. But basically no one in the US establishment likes whistleblowers. That was one of Obama's big failings, increasing government surveillance, cracking down more on whistleblowers. Although, yeah, he did actually release Manning, but generally his administration were very aggressively against whistleblowers. You know, that and the whole drone strikes on civilians were somewhat blemishes on Obama. Geez, Milk, that's pretty harsh. You want to torture Assange with reruns of Full House and Fuller House? I think that's against the Geneva Convention, buddy. That's pretty harsh. Yeah, I think basically all the establishment in the US, the establishment Republicans, establishment Democrats, really want to get their hands on Assange, and he's justifiably paranoid about that. I don't know what stance Trump will take, seeing Assange was such a partisan supporter of Trump. Yes, Phil and Phil, the Gitmo is still open. So, I mean, I think he definitely should face the court proceedings for. I know that the wording of the crime seemed to lose somewhat in the translation, but it was some form of rape, sexual assault charge. But yeah, I think he should face court on that. But he's more worried about the US. Grant, was I blocked from work? No, I actually not working this week. So I got super lucky and wasn't going to work on Monday. So I missed the big protest that fucked up the start of everyone's day on Monday. Look, no, I didn't see Shorten's talk. Was there a drill going off in the background? Okay, that's pretty funny. Oh, David, yeah, no, I've seen that as well. The Libs are already going hard on, whoa, Labor gets in, I'm going to be flooded with refugees. Bloody hell. And it's very clear the Conservative campaign is going to be ugly as fuck. I mean, there was this fucking feature in The Australian today that was basically, Bill Shorten's wife's a bossy bitch. It's like, shut the fuck up, what the fuck? That was fucking appalling. It's just like, oh my God, this shit. Safa, do I hide my car? Why would I hide my car? I don't understand the question. Grant, who do I think will win the election? Labor, probably by a really healthy margin. Nothing's a done deal, but there's only a tiny chance that the Libs will retain government, mainly because they need all of about half a dozen variables to go in their favour to stand a chance. Whereas Labor needs everything to go wrong. It's possible, but very unlikely. It's most likely a Labor win, most likely by quite a healthy margin. A not insignificant chance of a really crushing win for Labor, which would be hilarious. Safa, car break-ins in Melbourne. Cars are always getting broken into. I don't know if there's anything in particular going on. When was the last time? When I was in fucking Sunshine. And that was a long time ago. 10 years ago, maybe longer. I was in Sunshine at a fucking bowling alley. My fucking car got broken into. Fucking typical of Sunshine. Grant, would Shorten make a good PM? I'm not a particular fan of Shorten, but I think it's important for the country for Labor to win the election. I think I'll get a little bit hyperbolic that I think it would be a disaster for the country for the Libs to win, because they've got a fucking horrific policy on climate change, on industrial relations, on refugees, on the environment generally, education, health. Basically, every single one of their policies is fucked. Safa, if a whole street got windows broken, it was probably the same very small number of people just being assholes. It's an aberration. In and of itself, it means nothing. Fuck, man, where was I living? It's when I was still living in Sydney, in like Ashfield, where this little group of junkies, because they got caught, there were like 4 or 5 of them, and it was a hot night in summer where people often make the mistake of leaving, windows open or their back door open, and these little junkie fucks went all the way down my street this night. They did about 12 break-ins on one night. Yeah, again, in terms, that was the only crime that happened when I was living in this area. So in and of itself, you go like, and I've seen that thing happen with someone smashing a bunch of car windows all the way down the street, or house windows or shop windows. It's an aberration. Really fucking annoying if it happens to you. But in and of itself, it's meaningless in terms of larger crime trends. Sorry, I heard that, Milk Gillespie. Yes, the rumor is that Trump fired the head of immigration control, ICE, because she wasn't severe enough. Even though she oversaw the putting babies in cages, splitting families up, kids and babies dying in custody, but that's not severe enough, apparently. Oh, well. David, I agree that the worship of the concept of a surplus is ridiculous. But if a government doesn't contain their spending, then inflation gets out of control. The foreign trade can go to hell, and the economy can tank. It's a balancing act. But the way the Liberals are worshipping the concept of surplus, even when they're lying about being able to deliver one, it's ridiculous. That's the other thing with them. They don't deliver a surplus. They lie and say, this budget will deliver a surplus. No, it's not. You literally made up some numbers and said, and everything will go the way we plan, and spend will ever. It's a lie. It's a blatant lie, and it's a dumb lie because it's this nonsensical worship of a surplus. Absolutely ridiculous. Shirazi, you were amused at Abbott getting a shellacking over discovering buses. It's not surprising. He discovered little libraries as well. I don't know if there's anyone who hasn't heard of these things, but these have been around, I don't know, for at least 10 years. There's a couple in my neighborhood that I know about. It's basically someone sets up a thing. They build it's like a little bookshelf, and they just put books in it. There's little signs saying, take a book, leave a book, if there's a book here you like, take it, read it, bring it back, or, swap it, put a book that you're finished with in here. And it's just a fun little community thing. And apparently he discovered one for the first time in his electorate and made a little video about it, and he just looked like a fucking tool. David, you're asking me to explain international economics. It's all voodoo, man. Like you say, Japan may have a very high debt to GDP ratio. They have low inflation, whereas Venezuela has hyperinflation. Like there are a million factors, and that's what I mean. That the libs' worship of the concept of a surplus is fucking ridiculous, because in and of itself it doesn't mean anything. In fact, it shows that they're trying to deflect from the fact they're not actually taking care of people. Absolute misfoxification, infrastructure investment, which the libs are terrible at. What I want from a government is a government that looks after the people. It's going, well, what's the average standard of living? How well are people being looked after? How strong is our education system, our health system? How good's the infrastructure? Not this ridiculous and completely fictional number that is a surplus. It's just one of the 1,000 or so indicators that the LNP have their head well and truly up their own asses, and they do not give a fuck about anyone. It's just all about power and the top end of town for them. I got a cocktail book. It wasn't even book. It was this, I've had it, this flyer fan thing. I don't even know how to describe it. I could get it, show it, I guess. But yeah, it was, and in fact, Mrs. Angry saw it and thought, ooh, my man might like that, and she brought it home for me, which I thought was nice. Actually, fun bit of trivia. Mrs. Angry tells me that one of her co-workers discovered just today our relationship, because through one thing and another, she found out that this co-worker watched my videos, and she goes, oh, that's my hubby. And so, like I always joke when I'm talking here or on videos, to protect her privacy, I just refer to Mrs. Angry. And her co-worker spent the day calling her Mrs. Angry, which I think is hilarious. And in fact, Mrs. Angry thinks is hilarious too. But yeah, Shrazi, I love the little libraries thing. I put stuff in. What did I get? I think I got the first book of Game of Thrones from a library swap thing, and then ended up reading all the books because I'd read the first one. Oh yeah, Shrazi, how does Mrs. Angry like the election date? She does not. For those who don't know, the Australian election date of May 18 is the same Saturday night that Eurovision's on, and Mrs. Angry is a huge Eurovision fan, and she's a huge election junkie. So she's going to have to flip between channels, checking what's happening on Eurovision and what's happening in the election. And that's just one more reason in her book to dislike Scummo, that he set the election for the same night as Eurovision. Very, very foolish on Scummo's part. Oh, just no funny story. No one, I haven't had a co-worker find out about my YouTube channel for a little while, but I've had a couple funny ones. I know one guy, I was going to see him to work out an issue we were talking about. I'm going, Mike, we need to go to, and he goes, look, that's all well and good, but the more important question is, what's your problem with Vegemite? Because this was way back when Vegemite did that stupid thing where they released a cheesy version that they came up with the fucking brain dead shit stupid name of iSnack 2.0. Fucking dumb as hell. Just goes to show they're all morons at the craft fucking marketing department. They eventually changed it to it's still around, I think. It's called Cheesy Bite. But I made a video about how dumb that was, and this guy, that was his way of telling me about it. And in another job, I remember I walked in one morning, and one of the younger folk who I was friendly with, she just went, and she shouts, she goes, you! And I'm going, what, me? She goes, you! And I'm, what? And she goes, why didn't you tell me about the stuff you do on YouTube? And I'm going, whoa, whoa, inside voice, inside voice, inside voice. She took it as an affront that I hadn't told her that I had stuff on YouTube. But yeah, there have been occasions where, oh yes, Frank, you think our election should be on Halloween? The Brexit date is now Halloween, which is fucking hilarious. I don't know what's going to happen in the lead up to look, and that's stating the bleedy obvious. Let's get real. Nobody, literally nobody, knows what's going to happen with Brexit. Where it is. I said, Frank, I saw you trying to get people to vote on of the alternative possible Brexit plans, which would you go for? And like leaving out the two extremes, the hard Brexit and the no Brexit. But I don't know enough about them. I mean, I think one of the more difficult issues to work out is the Irish border, because Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, so the south of Ireland, is staying in the EU, but Northern Ireland is, owned by England. So if England leaves the EU and Ireland stays in, there are issues with that border. And what has happened in the past, like as recently as the 90s, when there was a hard border between North and South Ireland, or Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, it was a flashpoint for violence. It was very fucked, and no one sane wants to go back to that. So that's one of the really tough issues that has to be worked out. I mean, there's just the general trade issues as well. Like the very real risk, if there isn't a proper trade agreement worked out, that England's going to run out of necessities. So I would think, look, if Brexit was going to, no, Dave's Fatal, you think Northern Ireland won't be happy to hear fucking the Proddies are 100% on board with being part of England. They're not independent. See, one of the things that might come out of this is a push to a united Ireland, which I personally would be in favour of. And so the Irish border is a very big issue, but even just the trade issues, all these warnings of basics might run out in England because there's no trade agreement with Europe. That has to be worked out, because that sounds like a fucking nightmare. Dr. Obama, my stance on Republic as in Australia being a republic, I'm absolutely a Republican. I think the idea of a foreign monarch being our head of state with an unelected representative in the country who's our constitutional head of state, I think that's fucking ridiculous. And for anyone who says it doesn't matter and it's just ceremonial, I point you to November 11th, 1975, when the unelected representative of the Queen sacked the democratically elected government. Fuck that bullshit. The idea of our head of state being an unelected foreign power is fucking ridiculous. Ooh, David, my God, I can hear the foil helmets crackling just at your suggestion of one world government. The thing is, people are too different. I mean, we have too many divisions just within countries. The idea of multiple, and the EU is the closest we've come to it, and it's very fractious. But the idea of a one world government where people are too different and just want completely different things, it's just not doable. Oh, Shirazi, this is the thing. This is the number one thing. Like, forget pro or anti-Brexit. The fact that the public faces of the pro-Brexit campaign lied through their fucking teeth and did not have a plan is fucking criminal. Because, again, I've said this so many times, but it's clear that Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson and the rest of those fuckheads who were just trying to cause trouble, they did not expect the Brexit vote to get up. It was all about posturing for them. So they never made any plans. They never had a sensible option for how to actually leave the European Union, because they didn't think the vote would get up. They were just posturing. So they fucking lied through their teeth non-stop. And then when the vote got up, they have no idea what to do, because it's just like caught out in all their lies, basically. And that's bullshit, because look, honestly, I was anti-Brexit. Not that my opinion particularly means anything because I'm not in England, but I was anti-Brexit just because of the fucking blowhards who were the public face of it. But you can make quite a solid case for England leaving the EU, whether it's from a conservative politics point of view, and you can make that point without being a bigot, without being racist, without being a fucking liar. You can make a quite compelling case from the point of view of conservative politics, and you can make quite a compelling case from the point of left-wing politics, particularly radical left-wing politics. And I think it's kind of obvious that the Labour leader, Corbyn, is not a fan of the EU at all. He's completely okay with leaving the EU. So I just think that the people who were the public face of the Brexit campaign are fucking criminals. They should all be in jail. They're liars and scumbags. They betrayed the people who supported what they said. They're fucking scum. Look, good point, Frank. That is a thing, and I was probably guilty of it myself in saying anyone who voted Brexit voted because they believed the lies or were just a horrible bigot. No, there is an incredibly solid case for leaving the EU. Like I said, you can frame it in terms of conservative politics. You can frame it in terms of progressive politics. Things are not black and white. But it's just, I was always very angry that the self-proclaimed public faces of the pro-Brexit vote were lying fucking scumbags. Like, just to a person. Fucking carpetbagging criminal shit stains. They were the fucking worst. And that did no favors to completely reasonable people who thought leaving the EU was a good idea. Those people were fucking scum. And like that's from fringe nutters like Farage through to a bunch of mainstream Tories who were just about their own power, and they fucking lied to everyone, and fuck them. They're really obnoxious. Justin, do I think a two-stage vote for Republic? I don't think any vote on a republic in Australia has any similarity to Brexit, namely because it wouldn't affect any trade deals. There are no trade deals tied up in our constitution. Becoming a republic is just about changing our constitution. It's about saying we are definitely 100% completely a separate entity from the UK. The Queen's not our head of state. We do not have a vice-regal representative as our constitutional head of state. Our head of state is elected. I don't think there's any comparison to Brexit, apart from the loudest public voices would be divided along party lines, as in you get a lot of people on the Labor side being pro-Republic and a lot of people on the Conservative side being stay with the Queen as head of state. But you raise a good point, Justin, about what type of republic do we have. And that's how John Howard managed to torpedo the last decent push we had as a republic by stacking it with people who were opposed to the republic at all, so they could be divisive and cause fights. There were the two main differences. The idea of David, who appoints the Governor General? I think the Prime Minister does. I don't think the Queen appoints the Governor General. I think the government appoints the Governor General. But the Governor General can and has sacked the government. I think there are two main versions of what a republic. Most people, well, arguably there's three. Most people say there should be a president or a role similar to a president, because traditionally, Westminster-style democracies, there are three branches of government. There's the legislative branch, which is our elected representatives, the judicial branch, both of those can make laws. The legislative and judicial branch can both make laws, and the executive branch. Now, with us being in the Commonwealth, the executive branch, the actual head of state is the Queen, and we have her vice-regal appointee as our constitutional head of state. In the US, it's the president. So most people say you need those three branches because they're checks and balances on each other. No one branch has all the power. So some people say that's not necessary, that we just get rid of the idea of a head of state and we keep our parliamentary process and it's just the government of the day runs things. But if you believe in a presidential system, there were two main alternatives being put forward. One is the president elected by popular vote, as happens in the US and many other countries. And the other is the president is appointed by the parliament, much as the Governor General is now. The more conservative Republicans like the idea of an appointed president. The more populist Republicans favour direct election. Deus Votel, don't say the Queen doesn't have power. We have had a democratically elected government sacked by the unelected appointee of the Queen, and the Queen authorised that move by the Governor General. So fuck the idea that it's just ceremonial. It isn't. The Governor General is our constitutional head of state, and that is fucking bullshit. Sure, Aussie, the US is a failed state as far as I'm concerned. Seriously, it's a fucking shit show. It's only kept afloat by people pretending that it isn't a complete disaster. Get rid of the royal family. I'm not suggesting dragging them into the public square and setting up a guillotine. No, that's for the people to do. No, but I think the idea of us having an unelected head of state is fucking horseshit. Luke, I think you're right in as much as we are not going to see a serious push for a republic while Betty Windsor is still alive, or Betty Schicklgruber, or whatever her real name really is. I always liked the line in Blackadder, I think it was the third series, where Blackadder is serving the prince, Prince George, and because George's dad was German, and there's one episode where George says some stupid line, one of his stupid speeches about, we'll get through this because we're British, and walks out with his head in the air. And Blackadder just looks after him derisively and just goes, You're not. You're German. That was such an English joke. I loved it. That's it, David. Saxburg-Gotha. Was it World War One when they officially changed their name? Because then we're being at war with the Germans. Our royal family probably shouldn't have a German name. Oh, Days Fatal, sure. Now you say you didn't mean kill them. Honestly, officer, it was a metaphor. Yes, we all believe you. Oh, yeah, Justin, sorry, you must have been slightly late. We talked about Assange at the start. That's kind of big news that Assange has actually been arrested. We'll be interested to see what happens to him, because he be shitting his little britches right now at the thought about getting sent to the US. Okay, thanks for dropping by, Frank. Have a good day, buddy. Yeah, I am not an Assange fan, namely because he's a misogynist, reactionary piece of shit. I think in the abstract, the concept of WikiLeaks is a net positive, but Assange himself and the people who have control over what WikiLeaks does have, in the last 2 to 4 years, shown themselves to be incredibly partisan and just reactionary dipshits. They've made multiple pronouncements that are racist and misogynist. And here's honestly, and this is to an extent a defense of Assange, because what happens, like when the rise of WikiLeaks, there were all these people who basically started to deify Assange, like literally treating him like he was a god, he was a savior, he was all these things. And I think it's a very human failing that if you go through several years of people basically worshipping you, it's very hard to not believe your own press, because he went off the rails years ago. But honestly, I look at it and go, I'm not sure it's complete. I mean, okay, it's completely his fault because he chose to do it. But I think it's quite hard to resist it. Like if you have several years of people just treating you like you're the savior, you're God walking amongst us, it's hard to resist believing it. And I think that's where he got in trouble with the sexual assault charges as well, thinking that rules don't apply to him. And because people were telling him that rules don't apply to him, he's better than everyone else. Oh, look at you, Mimsy, how much do you like that? Oh, you're such a sooky cat. Such a sooky cat. We just renewed her registration with the local council, and Mrs. Angry was saying, I don't know if she's going to live 2 years. Should I spend money on registering her for 2 more years? Which was, oh, you're lucky you don't understand human talk, Mimsy. Mrs. Angry's always talking about you dying. And so you're not allowed to die for 2 years because we paid for registration with the local council for 2 years. It would be very poor form on your part to die in less than 2 years. Yes, Tendo, Kajip has more lives. Oh my God, she loves the attention. Got to rub her head. David, I agree with you on Keating's turn of phrase. Right, as a scorpion, you don't want Mimsy to die ever. Sadly, it's going to happen. How much was your cat rego, Mimsy? It was just here. It was like $40 or something, I think. I don't remember. It was just here, though. Oh, my God. No, hate mail is just here. Wait, is this? Oh, no, that's just from the Real Truth magazine. That's That's not the actual hate mail, although it's probably here. The one written about me is probably here too. Some of them are just religious scripts. Oh no, this is the one that's hate mail at me. Could you imagine? Look at all those words. Could you imagine spending that much time on ripping on someone? I still haven't read it. It's fucking hilarious. What's this one? No, that's just a school holiday program. David's a dog man. Oh, Joe, you know, I've had some hate mail. I've had some incredibly humorous ones. Should I read it? I keep saying I should. Look, I'm gonna read this. Does it say the person didn't even sign it, but I know who it was actually. Oh yes, Fox of Fate. It's double-sided, really tightly spaced, double-sided, 2.5 pages. There's another one in there somewhere too. Oh, Justin, I can imagine the hate mail you get in government. Yes. Yes, Dr. Rhymer, it's a bit of all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Someone had to do that by hand, unless they copied it. But I think Kubrick was so fixated on tiny details. I bet he had a fucking intern type out those hundreds of pages of all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Brad Scorpion, you think they've done it this tightly spaced to hurt my... No, I think this really gives you an insight into their brain though, because that just is all run on craziness. Okay, I'm just seeing some. I think I have to, because I've never read this to myself. I've never read it out loud, but I'm just reading the occasional sentence, and it's pretty goddamn funny. Okay, occasionally I think this person lapses into racism and homophobia, and I'm not going to read out anything that's racist or homophobic. I'll read out all the stuff they say about me though, because it's funny. Okay, I've had this for months too. Anyway, dear AngryAussie, I fucking hate you, and I hope you know that. You now do. That's all I wanted you to know. But since that would make a pointlessly short letter, I will write more. That's actually pretty funny. You need to know you're a complete knobhead, and I'd like nothing more than to be like VD, Channel Folklore. This was another guy I pissed off who wrote me heaps of hate mail and ended up going to jail. Dave, my favorite Kubrick film, I think I'm with you, that's Dr. Strangelove, although that opening sequence in The Shining, the helicopter camera following the car through the twisty mountain road is just amazing. But I think Dr. Strangelove overall. Anyway, so I'm a knobhead. Sadly, if VD is correct in his beliefs, I'll be in hell with you. That will be a sad reality. Another sad reality is there are more SJWs like you in the world, and they're polluting the absolute shit out of it, and I hate it. It pisses me off that cunts like you do not seem to see you're a complete useless sack of shit and are a burden of the human species and its advancement beyond our primitive feelings. We need an objective standard to live up to. Feelings are not objective. They change from person to person, culture to culture, and religion to religion. This is why I hope you read this in a video, because at least this message might open someone's eyes to how bad SJWs are, how much of a knob-headed dumb cunt you are, and how society will be better. I'm sure he's going to win a few of you over it. People like you say you're for free speech. No, I don't. Okay, I do not. I think when people start talking about free speech, they're talking shit. When you see free speech, you cry and whinge and get very scared about it and how it'll affect you and your delusional ideology. Your ideology is weak. You haven't thought it through. I don't know who's worse when it comes to arrogance, you or Anthony Mundine. That is a fucking awesome comparison. The only possible competitor to my arrogance is Anthony Mundine. Fucking awesome. Anyway, you're both fucking stupid. I know that Anthony Mundine has an excuse. He's been deluded into thinking he's the greatest piece of shit to ever exist because of the whole thinking of modern day Aboriginal. You, on the other end, don't have. I think Anthony Mundine's excuse is he made a living getting punched in the head. Like, he came out being an anti-vaxxer this week, and people go, "Oh, that's awful." I go, yeah, it's awful, but he spent years getting punched in the head. What do you expect? You have no values or ambitions of this kind. Your ambition is that of greed. You're fucking lazy, greedy. I don't see the difference between being lazy and greedy. I place it as a way of specifying one specific form of greed. Narcissistic, delusional, you have an ideology that's as fixed as religious teachings are. This is why I need to write this to you. You need to be told. In case you're wondering, I'm only up to there. What's that? That's like about a third of a page out of 2.5 pages. You're a sack of shit in the fullest extent of the term. You're selfish, delusional. You're one of the most arrogant people on YouTube. Hey, can't argue with that. Not just one of the most arrogant Australians on YouTube, you're one of the most arrogant people on YouTube as a whole. Normally, I'd find it baffling how someone could be so ignorant of their complete shit. But with you, it's no surprise, there's no bafflement. And this is a big bit with bold caps underline. You are fucking arrogant. I wish I knew where your arrogance come from so I could stop it. It's because I'm smarter than you, dickhead. Just to reinforce the arrogance side of things. So excuse me, narcissism could be that you've fed your arrogance and your ego your life, which made you blind to your own shit. I hope it's the last of those. At least then there's a chance you can be redeemed and not be so arrogant. But chances are it's a combination of all of them that's feeding you shit. You could be an atheist version of one of those evangelical Christians. The only difference is you're SJW and evangelicals are Christians. That could be it. I hope that's it. That could explain why facts scare you. You have to block everyone. I find it offensive that you block people on Facebook and YouTube. Spoiler alert, that's why I do it, because it upsets them, and I find that hilarious. So now, as a part of your politically correct SJW philosophy, you have to unblock everyone, even the ones that deserve it, to avoid causing me offense. Look, he's got to be joking. At this point, he literally has to be joking. But anyway. Do not give me that, but someone will find them offensive and that's why I block them. I'll just acknowledge the fact that an objective standard needs to be applied in order to stop it going to extremes. Do you understand, AngryAussie, the moron of Melbourne? I just love, he's got to be joking, right? That is, at that point, I think it's got to be a joke. The bit that, to me, has to be a joke. He says, I find it offensive you block people, so you have to unblock everyone, even the ones that deserve it, to avoid causing me offense. That's got to be a joke, right? I really worry about someone's cognitive function who could say something like that unironically. Look, I reckon I'll get that on a t-shirt. More on of Melbourne. So funny. I'll have to show this one to Mrs. Angry because she's a psychologist, which I believe I've mentioned before. And I have showed her a couple of letters in the past and I've gone, is it my imagination or is this person really fucked? And she's looked at it and gone, they're really fucked. They are really, really fucked. Like there's something wrong. Ooh, Dr. Obama printed on a t-shirt. Holy cow. That idea's got some legs. That idea has some legs. I like, because I've seen you can get some t-shirts that have about 40,000 words from a novel printed on them, which is interesting. Wow. Oh, look, There's something really, even if there is some joking in here, there's something really wrong with someone who do all that. I read, okay, that's half a page out of 2.5 pages, and I got bored. I might read some more in another live stream, but yes, Feeler and Sealers, Eminem's Stan. That is. So if a Stan is a fan who gets deranged and obsessed, what do we call a hater who just a hater, I guess, but a hater who gets deranged and obsessed and writes long rambling letters? But yeah. You want to let Mimsy rip it up? She's not that focused. She's bored at the moment. Biori, no. Last I heard, VD was still in prison. So yeah, that's the quality of my haters. They end up in jail. Him, because on top of all his other weirdness and his anger management issues, he was a pretty serious drug user. And the way it was related to me by Celtic King is that VD, he was causing a scene in public because he seems to be incapable of not causing scenes wherever he's about. And so he's causing a scene in public, and coppers told him to calm down, and he threatened and abused the cops, and I think he threw a punch at the cops, and so they throw him to the ground and then go through his pockets for ID, and he's got marijuana on him. So he went to jail for the combination of assaulting a cop and drug possession. So, you know what? I might make my favorite cocktail. My favorite cocktail is a whiskey sour, and I might make it with that concoction I made, the butterscotch. Maybe a butterscotch whiskey sour. Yes, I think I'll do that. I don't have to be anywhere early in the morning. I was going to maybe go visit. Azy is in hospital, by the way. Things are not going great for him. His legs in particular are all fucked up. But he is in the hospital having all sorts of medical things done to him. So I'm going to try and get in there and maybe shoot a video with him so he can say hello, and I can stick that online so he can say hello to people. But he's having all sorts of medical misadventures at the moment. Right. So if I'm going to, I don't need syrup because there's sweetener in the scotch. I just need the egg white and the lemon juice. Maybe some more ice for my drink. All right. I want a cocktail shaker, of course. It's want it all foamy. Code Grade 2 Electric Boogaloo. I like that, Biori. I like that. Right. We're just going to get components. So, we've got cocktail shaker. All right. Cocktail shaker. Lemon juice. My big old skull of butterscotch. That is a Crystal Head vodka bottle that I kept because it's such a cool bottle. Use it as a decanter for things. Oh, I didn't get the bloody egg white. All righty, let's do it. That is a fun question, Dr. Obama. If I was in the Labour caucus and so was Friendly Geordies, would I vote for him as leader? Wow, probably going to depend on who the other choices were. I mean, he is very old school Labour. And like I said, it's not rocket science for someone to work out that in a broad sense, there is a lot of agreement between me and Friendly Geordies on question of policy and what a government should and shouldn't do. And a big one, I agree with him on. I don't always, or at all, sometimes agree with the angle he comes in with. But there's a question of when talking about, you know, diversity and representation in the ranks of Labor, it might be nice if there were less lawyers and millionaires in the ranks and more ordinary people, or people who'd actually worked their whole life, rather than people whose whole life had been politics. And hi, Bobo and Big Boy. So if you're AZ for Deputy PM, ooh, all sorts of scandals would follow him wherever he went. All right, so shake my booty a bit now. Oh God, wait a sec. The bloody oven clock's making that annoying noise. I'm just going to hit it. Don't even know if you could hear it, but it was just annoying me. It was shaking. I wanted to go really foamy. David, do I think New Start allowance should be increased? Yes, I absolutely do. I think work for the dole should be abolished. It's class warfare. I think the way the unemployed have been treated lately is straight up fucking criminal. And also people who are on disability payments are treated like shit, because I have a few friends on disability payments treated like shit. There's some stories being put about this week, you know, of a parent having to prove their blind child was still blind. Like fucking Centrelink insisting they come in for assessments. Like, well, yes, sure, you got that disability payment because your child was blind, but we need to do another assessment. Like, I don't know, in case they suddenly became less blind. And another one was a kid that had Down syndrome. Centrelink insisting on them coming in for another assessment in case they were suddenly miraculously not afflicted with Down syndrome. It's like, it's fucking criminal. Big Boy, New Start allowance, do you mean how much is it or what is it? What it is the government welfare payment. But yes, it absolutely needs to be increased. Mind you, minimum fucking wage needs to be increased. And this is shit that doesn't affect me. I'm not on unemployment. I'm not on disability. I'm not on minimum wage. I get paid very well, thank you very much, as an IT contractor. But the injustice of, I can't come at the idea of someone working full-time, like a 40-hour week in any job and still living in poverty. That's disgusting. And yet these absolute fucking garbage people, you go, we'll get a better job. Don't work at McDonald's. Don't work as a cleaner. It's like, fuck you. These businesses that make money should not be able to pay people so little that they can work full-time and still be in poverty. That is a fucking crime against humanity. I also think we should look after more people who actually are unemployed and are on disability or sickness payments. But seriously, people who are working full-time and are still in poverty, that's the sort of shit that starts revolutions, basically. Oh yeah, look, cashless welfare card, which is just a humiliation to heap on top of people who are already in a tough position. I just think all those things are just class warfare being waged by the wealthy on the disadvantaged. And if they want class warfare, fuck it, bring it to them. It's just they need to crack open a history book, because I forget who it was. I could look him up. He was a billionaire from he's an American, not from Silicon Valley, but from one of the other sort of tech hotspots. Seattle. He's from Seattle. That's right, because he's like where Microsoft come from. He's a billionaire from Seattle, and he gave a speech, and it's been published as an article online. He gave a speech with some event that these other billionaires are at, and he said, we need to cut this shit out. We need to stop the increase in disparity between the rich and the poor, or they're fucking coming from us. He said, just look at history. Just look at history. There has never been a society where the rich were so disproportionately advantaged compared to the poor, where it's continued. There has there's been legislative changes that level things out a bit, or there's been a revolution that's involved the fucking guillotines and stringing them up from the lampposts. And this was a billionaire saying it to other billionaires. If we don't cut this shit out and actually reduce the gap between rich and poor, they're fucking coming for us. History tells us that's how it works. And even like you look back, even on recent history, like the actual proto-capitalists were all thorough believers in, well, the workers who are our minions doing our bidding and making us rich, they have to earn enough money to buy our products. They have to earn enough money to keep the economy turning over. They have to earn enough money to be happy, or the whole thing will fall down. Henry Ford, who was basically a fascist, but was a huge believer in, well, my workers have got to have enough money to buy shit. He was not like, how can I fuck my workers over more and more? And he did fuck his workers over, but it was like, no, they've got to have a standard of living that means they're an active participant in the economy, because it isn't sustainable. Look, every Uber is a shit company. That's why I refuse. I don't use Uber. I never will. Uber is a shit company run by shit people who fuck over their employees, claim they're not employees, and their whole thing is about fucking up systems that are in place, taking no responsibility for what they do, and raking off all this cash in the meantime. No. Uber is a fucked company run by fucked people. And I mean, fucking Amazon. Jeff fucking Bezos is like, he's the richest man in the world. It's mostly imaginary money, but a lot of it's real money. And it's not just like all the industrialists fuck people over in third world countries, right? Other countries where we can turn a blind eye to it, pretend we don't know about children working in sweatshops through, Asia and the Middle East. We can pretend we don't know about that. But Bezos actually does it within the US, like treating people like absolute shit. And it's like, fuck no. Exploitation's got to stop. It's just like, It's absolutely unsustainable. Well, that's a good point you raised, Justin. If automation takes over more and more jobs, which it will, how does an economy function if 50% of the population isn't employed? You know, employment's got to cease to mean things. It's just without a radical rethink in, you know, what it means to be a citizen, what our society means, everything will simply collapse. Like, you've got these fuckwits who just think like, yeah, drive down costs, automate, fucking cut wages. It's like, if 50% of the population just can't live and can't buy anything, how the fuck does your business continue to exist? I mean, how do these people not get this? And we don't need revolution. We need common sense legislative change so that everyone has a living wage. And I know there are absolute fucking garbage people, particularly in the US, but they're worldwide, who just deride people like, well, if you're an entry-level job, you know, you shouldn't be paid enough to live because you need the encouragement to move up. Apart from the fact it literally isn't possible for everyone to move up. No, there should be no full-time job that doesn't pay the person enough money to live. If somebody is creating jobs that require someone to work full-time but not pay them enough to live, that person exploiting those people is a fucking criminal who needs to be punished. And I'm not joking about the word punished. That they should have they should be in jail. They should have their fucking money taken from them, and they should be in jail. Yeah, there's a lot of, I noticed a few people kicking about the universal basic income. I know the existing model of capitalism, employer-employee, is not sustainable. Anybody who says it is either very stupid or deliberately lying for partisan reasons, or probably some hideous fucking combination of the two. A fucking moron who is into exploitation on ideological grounds. But yeah, no, the current model of Western capitalism is absolutely unsustainable. So people forget, like, you get people who say they're anti-union. It's going, every basic right you have in the workplace was fought for by unions. Holidays, decent pay rates, penalty rates, health benefits, all of these things. And I mean literally fought for by unions. So I think people forget, people died, not one or two people, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people died fighting for what we take for granted. Okay? It's purely and simply the idea that union is bad is a lie. And it is like the ruling classes have forgotten the alternative to you treating working people decently and giving them a living wage is you being dragged out of your fucking mansion in the middle of the night and set on fire. Okay? So it's just like, look at the fucking history books. Yes, the bosses have hired bully boys to beat and murder the workers and the unionists. But at the end of the day, there's more workers, there's more unionists, and they've won their rights with blood. And there's this absolute delusion among conservatives that this didn't happen. It's like, dude, you're going to get a real fucking rude awakening one day. And it's not new. It's not abstract. It's not a flight of fancy. Read your fucking history books. You fuck people over long enough, they rise up and they cut your fucking head off. You can only get away with it for a certain amount of time. And the solution is so fucking straightforward. I mean, I love how wound up conservatives get when you say, well, billionaires shouldn't exist. You don't get that amount of wealth without criminal exploitation. Like, you don't get that amount of wealth without crimes against humanity. I'm not even fucking joking about that. Nobody who's risen to immense wealth has got there without killing people. And they didn't stick a knife in them themselves, but their wealth was generated by people dying. And the refusal to see that is absolutely, man, I do not usually get this fucking Marxist, do I? I'm not a Marxist, but I don't usually get this I don't usually get this revolutionary, do I? But I am not joking. I believe all these things. Look, Dr. Obama, Bill Gates, he's like atoning for his sins. There's no question that Gates and Microsoft rose by exploiting people, but Gates is the one, he's giving away over 90% of his wealth. In fact, from a certain perspective, what Gates has done with the billions he's put into his foundation and the health research and the supporting and developing economies and whatnot, the billions he's pouring into all these causes, without us realizing it, Microsoft seemed to have put in place one of the most cunning corporate tax plans in history. Because in the 90s, at the rise of the internet, where Microsoft were being fucking totalitarian, I was really anti them. But that whole monster turned into the Gates Foundation that's pouring billions into all this. And that came from all these corporations that spend all this money dodging tax, have inadvertently paid billions of dollars into these humanitarian concerns. And Comrade Gates is a bit of a fucking surprise, quite honestly. And I think, who was it? Warren Buffett just looked at, and because Warren Buffett never wanted his kids to inherit his money because he thought that was really toxic. He wanted all the money to go to charitable causes. When he saw how well the Gates Foundation was doing, he was just like, yeah, fuck it. You take all my money and put it in the shit as well. It's like when people try to say, oh, look, did you see Jeff Bezos put this X $100 million into this charitable cause? The amount that Bezos contributed in terms of percent of what he has on hand was the equivalent of a minimum wage person giving $50 to charity. And Bezos would have written it off on tax anyway. So in effect, he paid nothing. So fuck the idea that Bezos is a humanitarian. Ha! Fox of 8, you think the mafia should run things because they're at least honest about what they do. Oh yeah, Jason, Gates is definitely the exception, not the rule. No way. No one compares to Gates. And that's what I say. Bezos, when they try, oh, he gave $100 million. Fuck off. That is like the person who serves you at a local cafe giving $50 to charity. Bezos did not even notice that amount of money. And he literally wrote it off on tax. It's a fucking scam. And honestly, based on available evidence, Bezos is directly hurting and killing people on a scale that Microsoft never did. So even if he gives away money in another 10 years. Tendai, should we start with the oil companies? Fuck them. They're all scum. I don't care what happens to them. You're right, David. The corporations are dictatorships. But the most important thing is Mimsy gets some scratches. She doesn't want me to get so revolutionary I forget to give her scratches. Don't know what got me in the big revolutionary fervor state of mind. But I fucking completely believe all the stuff I've been saying. Oh, Gina fucking Reinhardt. Dr. Brown. Okay, here is a thing that people may not know. Gina Reinhardt inherited her money and expanded her mining empire, but she inherited it from her father, Lang Hancock. Now, popular folklore has it that Lang Hancock accidentally happened upon a huge iron ore deposit in Western Australia that he then ended up exploiting, because there was a law in Western Australia, if a government survey had revealed mineral wealth, private enterprise couldn't benefit from that. So Lang Hancock's absolutely false origin story is he was in a light aircraft with, I don't know the premise of why he was in this flight, but the plane had engine trouble and was forced to land in the middle of nowhere, and in Western Australia. And then we landed, look around, all the rocks were really red. And he just landed there randomly. And it turned out the rocks were really red because of iron oxide. And so it was a massive iron deposit, so a massive mineral. And people didn't know that. People thought fucking Western Australia with all its desert was just a wasteland and was useless, right? But there had actually been a government survey of this area that identified massive mineral wealth, but no one had acted on it. And Hancock knew this, lied and said he didn't know it, and said that he discovered this mineral deposit by accident. And then he was like, okay, I want to get mining rights for this. So he goes to the government and says, I want mining rights for this bit out in the desert. And the government went, yeah, no, we've got a law that says private enterprise can't do that. And he's going, oh, but I just found it by accident. It's a loophole in the law. And the government went, yeah, no, we think fuck you. But then Hancock lobbied through the conservative media to destabilize the government that was blocking him. And so he ended up getting the exploitation licenses and raised his wealth that way. So the fake story he invented is that he stumbled upon it by accident. The real story is he knew because of a government survey that this mineral wealth was there, and he bought the influence to force the government to let him have the licenses, where he got all this wealth that he ripped out of the country, which belonged to the fucking people of Australia, not to that cunt. And Gina inherited it and continued to exploit it. And, you know, she's garbage. She is absolute fucking filth. Lang Hancock was bad enough. He was an horrific, racist, garbage thief. And Gina Reinhardt is orders of fucking magnitude worse. If the government had stood up to Lang Hancock and said, no, fuck you, you can't steal this, and he did, he fucking stole it, we're going to nationalize mines there, billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars would have gone directly into government coffers rather than being stolen by Hancock and foreign interests. And it was straight up fucking stolen. And here's the thing, people go, oh, private enterprise is so much more efficient than government. I do not care if the Hancock operations were 10 times more efficient than the government, because you know who gets the government the money if the government is inefficient? The people who are fucking working, not pieces of fucking shit like Hancock and Reinhardt and the foreign interests that stole this fucking money. I don't give a shit. And you get things like when people saying like, oh, we've got to force Gina Reinhardt to pay money, and she's going, oh, this is bullshit. Well, it's not worth it. No one's going to do it. I tell you what, Gina, fuck off. Okay, if it's not worth it, I will take over the mining operations, and I will literally give 99% of the profits to the government. Okay, I don't fucking care. The millions I would still be getting are fucking plenty. Okay, so you and your criminal fucking theft of the wealth of this nation can fuck right off. So I hear about, oh, it's not worth it if you're going to tax me. Well, fuck off then. Fuck off. Fuck you not wanting to pay 30% tax. I am not even joking. I will pay 99% tax because the millions I would end up with are more than fucking enough. But I mean, these criminals with the money, criminals in the fucking government, criminals in the media. It's absolute fucking bullshit. Dr. Obama, you think Kevin Andrews could lose his seat at the election? Okay, if he no, I'll say if he's the one who introduced work choices, he's also an idiot religious fundamentalist, isn't he? If I'm remembering the right guy, he had this thing. There was this one, and this fucking cracks me up. He had this proposal that, you know, he's like, oh, marriage between a man and woman is sacrosanct. You know, we've got to preserve it at all costs. The government should pay for marriage counselling. And I'm not actually opposed to that. A government mandated system of relationship counselling that might help people stay together, I'm not actually opposed to. It's fine. I'm okay with that. But when he was promoting that, there was this picture of him with his wife sitting together so awkwardly. And I'm just looking at this picture going, that picture is the literal opposite of sex. And I'm not saying that the only important part of a relationship is sex, but it's pretty important. And I just looked at this picture of him with his wife and how awkward they looked, and I'm just like, yeah, that right there, that's not good. That is absolutely not good. Well, that's a fun one, Biori, because there are people on the conservative religious right who think divorce should be illegal. So yeah, should make cheating illegal. A man who cheats should get prison time. Yeah, fuck yeah. It's just like these people who push this bullshit conservative religious ideology never really think through the implications of what, well, because they don't have to think through the implications of what they're saying, because it's like one rule for them and a different one for everyone else. And they're absolutely shameless in the degree to which they're just like, yeah, I know I said that's the rule, but it doesn't apply to me. It just doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. I like that, Fox of Fate. Imagine telling the hardened crims on the inside what you're in for if cheating was illegal. Yeah, good on you, buddy. Bend over. You're right, Justin. All these, it's so consistent. These far-right religious bigots who rail against gay marriage is an assault against traditional marriage, and all this promiscuity and abortion and whatnot. And they're fucking, they're the ones having affairs. And look, the whole thing, like in the US, it's getting super fucking creepy, the degree to which they're legislating against abortion in the US. All the people who say they're completely opposed to government interference in private life somehow put that aside when they want to make abortion illegal. Okay, there is no doubt whatsoever that Trump has paid for a woman to have abortions. No doubt at all. That's a thing that's happened. Wow. Fox of Fate. Has someone been raising not being enrolled to vote should be a jailable offense? I have not heard that. That is full on. Yeah, Jason, I did see that there was someone in Texas proposing capital punishment for women having abortions. Is that the degree of insanity required to even propose that? Absolutely does my head in. But those people are out there. That's what I love. I have to sort of give people the bad news occasionally on social media when they say banning safe, legal abortion won't stop abortions. It will only make it unsafe. And because, again, historically, statistically, the abortion rate is broadly stable, whether it's legal or illegal. And so you get these activists saying, "Oh, banning abortion won't stop abortion. It will just make it really unsafe." Again, okay, you need to face up to the fact that the religious right are completely okay with that. They think women who get abortions should be punished. So when you say if you make abortion illegal, it won't stop, it's just more women will die, they won't admit to it. But what they think is good, they think women who seek abortions deserve to die. This is why people on the left trying to address the absolute lunatic extreme right fringe with logic and engaging it is such a fucking waste of time, because their position isn't logical. Their position is about religious absolutism. They're zealots. They're fanatics. No amount of logic, common sense, or appeals to compassion will sway them, because they are so convinced of their rightness that nothing matters. There's nothing more dangerous than a crusader who is convinced of their cause, because they will do terrible, unforgivable things because their cause is righteous. And this crosses boundaries. This crosses left, right, libertarian, totalitarian. People who are fanatically devoted to their cause will do absolutely terrible things in the name of their cause. Fox of Fate, yeah, no, don't waste your time. Do not waste your time arguing with the extreme religious right. There's no point. There's, I think one of the many pertinent points from Orwell's 1984, when your protagonist, Winston Smith and Julia, get recruited by the member of the elite who's secretly part of the resistance, and he gets them to recite an oath that says, okay, is your dedication to the cause complete and unswerving? Yes. Will you follow orders without question? Yes. You know, if the order is to throw acid in a baby's face, will you follow it without question? And they say yes. And that's where he throws it back at them later and goes, how the fuck is your cause any better when you said you wouldn't question the order to throw acid in a baby's face. Zealots who won't question things are fucking dangerous. So it often comes up with people saying here, whether seriously or lightheartedly, they say, oh, would you go into politics? I go, well, not as part of a party. I would never join a political party because political parties will always have a policy that I reject. And I go, there's no way, I'm not towing the party line. That's fucked. That's fucked. Like, okay, I broadly support the Labor Party, but their fucking cowardice on the issue of asylum seekers and refugees. Fuck that. Fuck that to hell. You know, I'm going to toe the party line. I mean, and that's just one example. But it's like if your allegiance is completely to the party, to the cause, you are going to sell out your personal morals at some point. So yeah, conceivably, I'd be an independent because then I could say whatever the fuck I wanted. And I could change and I could go, yeah, you know what, fuck that. I said that before, changed my mind, now I'm saying this. But I never have been, and I feel like I never could be, a member of a political party. Because short of me being absolute dictator and forcing everyone else to follow my whims, I'd come into conflict with the party line at some point. I'd just be like, yeah, no, oh no, that thing that the party says I have to support, I don't support that. And fuck it, I'm out. So I'm not comfortable with big party machines. I mean, I was only half joking. I've said in previous live streams, if I was in politics, I'd be like the radical left version of Trump, just saying whatever extreme shit I wanted to. And when everyone's upset, I say, don't fucking care. Don't fucking care. Don't care what you think. Mitchell, I don't know what you're trying to say. I've seen you say is the Australian government seized under the Commonwealth Constitution to the House of Lords? Our head of state is the Governor General. Don't think the House of Lords have ever gotten involved. As I said, November 11th, 1975, the unelected representative of the Queen sacked the elected government. So I'm not on board with that at all. So I'm not at all sure what you're trying to say about the government being seized by the House of Lords. I have no idea what you're trying to say there. I'm not aware of the House of Lords having the power to do anything with our government. But that's why I'm being very careful with what I say and saying I'm not aware. There may well be something that I'm not aware of. David, that's a good point, that the big parties tend to have to horse trade on policy to suck in swinging voters. Herding cats is not a bad metaphor. You know, I'm honestly of the belief that we may be better served if we end up with a future where no major party or coalition is able to claim power in their own right, and they're always forced to form coalition with minor parties. So that's going to be like checks and balances. There's lots of countries where that is true, where the vote is so splintered, there will never be a single party or major coalition with complete control. There's always going to have to be a quite disparate collection forming a coalition. I think it's possible that's a better option than huge parties controlling what happens. Misfoxification. Look, no system is perfect, and you do raise a good point where an arguably necessary but unpopular policy can't be passed. But what are you going to do, people? I mean, yeah, in fact, I can think back, one that I always remember is in the US, Lyndon Johnson passing anti-discrimination laws and basically saying, well, I just lost the South to the Democrats for a generation. But, you know, what defines necessary? See, that's the other thing. If you cannot convince a majority of the electorate that a policy should be enacted, how necessary is it? I agree, there are cases where I'd make that point, that a government has to enact a policy that will hurt them electorally. But it's difficult. Bobo, in the Star Wars universe, would I be dark, light, or grey Jedi? I'd be Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, throwing everything away and saying, holy fuck, this idea of absolute right or absolute wrong is bullshit. I'll throw in another variation there. I read a book once. God, I can't even remember what it was called, but I actually got it for free online. And it was basically the story of this guy who, without realizing it, he was the chosen one, identified in a prophecy of this power, and he ended up going to hell with Satan. He didn't realize the person he was traveling with was Satan at first, but that's eventually revealed. And then when they're down in hell working some shit out, there's a demon who thinks he's going to challenge Satan for being ruler of hell. And he says, I've got the numbers, man. I'm going to beat you. We're going to go to war. I'm going to beat you because I got the numbers. And Satan ends up making this terrifying kick-ass speech where he basically says, you might have the numbers, you might win the day. If we go to war, you win the day. But you puny little fucking demon, I've been here since creation. I will be here till the end of time. You may think you've won. You may rule hell for 1,000,000 years, but I will still be here and I will still be waiting. And the time will come where I will get you and I will fuck your shit up and I will take my throne back. You are too small and too insignificant. Even if you think you've got the numbers today, the day will come when I will get you and you will be fucked. And it's just like, that is among the scariest speeches I've ever heard. I haven't heard it, I read it. There was also a really funny thing where this human who's gone down to hell with Satan, going through various things, and he realizes the human had been believing a thing a demon was telling him. And then that demon got exposed as a liar who was trying to fuck over the human. But at this point, the human's aligned with Satan. And so Satan grabs this little demon who was going to fuck over the human and going, well, you're screwed now, buddy. He knows what you were doing. And Satan says to the human guy, do you want me to fuck him up? And because the guy's really pissed off because the human actually tried to help this demon, and this demon being a demon, she's going to fuck over the human. The human's really pissed off, and he's yeah, fuck him up. And Satan goes, right. And then the human goes, wait, I just remembered who I'm talking to. You fucking someone up is really bad. I can't actually handle that. And he says, no, he's a horrible little shit. Just fuck him off. Just fuck him off. Don't hurt him. And Satan just says to the demon, do you see that? You will never experience that level of grace no matter how long you exist. He would have been right to have me do my worst to you. He would absolutely be justified in that. But he's better than that. You are so fucking lucky. I wish I could remember what it was called because it was free. I went through this phase where I was finding all these free sci-fi and fantasy books online. And I would like print them out at work and read them. Can't remember, but there was another one that was a really, really fun and interesting take on the whole Jesus story. It was called Brotherhood of the Knife. Why do I remember that one? And I don't remember the Satan one. And there was another one with this sort of supernatural detective type guy whose name was Kennedy, because he was into punk music, and I think he could speak to the dead. His nickname was Dead Kennedy, and that was a fun read as well. But I read so much, I don't remember what that was called. I'm doing a little Google. So Supernatural Detective Dead Kennedy. See if that turns something up, a title that I remember. No, it's just the fucking band, the Dead Kennedys, of course. Gumshoes? Oh, no! Of course. No, this has found it. Okay. Fictional gumshoes. Oh. Okay, let me find it, because this one was worth reading, and I think there's actually a series on it. Where is it? Irene Adler? Is that? No. Why can't I see? Oh, it's a book. There's a book called Fictional Gumshoes. Oh, God. Why can't I search it? Wait, is that? No, that's a plus. I can't. Let me, I really, because this one was really worth doing. I think I can search it. Kennedy. Where is it? Yeah, DK Dead Kennedy. Chill of Fear? What's this? Is this it? Man, this is like so confusing. The Adept? No, it's here. Where is it? Okay. See also Nancy Ashton series featuring the Ghost of Aunt Timothy, Elizabeth Case, New York City Police Station. Derek Wilson's series featuring. Here it is. Sean Stewart's series featuring exorcist DK Dead Kennedy. That's right, he can see ghosts. He's an exorcist. Okay, so I'm going to search Sean Stewart. I'm sharing this with you. This is a book worth seeking out and reading. Perfect Circle, that's what it was called. Perfect Circle. Yeah, okay. Just throwing that in. You should seek out a book called Perfect Circle about an exorcist detective called Dead Kennedy. Rottweiler Dude, Last Jedi is a fucking great movie. Must watch it again sometime. Bobo, you like the movie Dogma, the Kevin Smith movie Dogma. I'll tell you what, because that movie was all about Kevin Smith being raised Catholic. And here's the problem I have. I enjoyed the movie Dogma, but there's a central thing in it that's either lazy or a massive blind spot Kevin Smith had. I suspect it was laziness. There's this thing where two angels come up with an idea that they're going to prove God fallible. And if they prove God is fallible, they'll basically destroy creation. And that's preferable to them. And the whole thing is about this rule that if they cross the threshold of a newly consecrated church, their sins will be expunged. I'm forgetting some of the detail, but a central thing was they're just going like, oh, if it's like they'll automatically be forgiven their sins. And it's like, no, a central part of Catholic doctrine is you are only forgiven your sins if you are genuinely remorseful. And the central part of the plan these angels have is they're going to get the forgiveness, which will prove God is fallible, and then they'll destroy creation. It's going, but you're only going to get the forgiveness if you are genuinely remorseful. And they're not genuinely remorseful. They have a devious plan at the heart of what they're doing. So the entire thing would fall apart because they would never get the forgiveness because they're not genuinely remorseful. That's my Catholic altar boy history coming out. And that's the bit that annoyed me about Kevin Smith's dogma. The central plot device is fatally flawed, and the fact that he ran with it is either very, very, very lazy writing, which is what I think the problem actually is, or a massive blind spot he had that he didn't realize how fatally flawed the angel's plan was. I think he knew, and it was just, oh, I'm just going to fudge it. Because so many, and good movies do it. Good movies do that. Good movies go, oh, well, this will be cool, so I'll do it anyway. But in simple terms, in the movie Dogma, the angel's plan would have failed completely because their intention was evil. You don't get forgiveness if your intention is evil. You only get forgiveness if your intention is complete remorse and a true pledge to not sin again. But they're the literal opposite of that. They're going to get, they think they can fake getting forgiveness even when they have no intention of acting honorably. So yes, don't fuck with an altar boy, is what I'm saying. And I won a Bible knowledge quiz at high school when I was at Catholic school as well. Incidentally, the prize for winning a Bible knowledge quiz was a Bible. I'm just going to say it, that seems useless. If I've already won a Bible knowledge quiz, why the fuck do I need a Bible? Because I know it. I should have got Das Kapital or something. Oh, geez, that's Haspuri. Kevin Smith is as interested in religion as his wife asked him to be. I thought he was raised Catholic. I thought that's where he came from. Oh, Bobo, you think I'm a movie ruiner? I really enjoy the videos on YouTube. I don't know if everyone here has seen them. There's a series of videos on YouTube called Pitch Meetings. They're what's the YouTube channel they're on called? So I'm not even. I just stumbled on them one time. It's a bigger channel that has movie stuff. I don't know, it's Movie Mojo or something. I don't know. It's movie something. A guy called Ryan George does them. He has his own channel as well. The pitch Screen Rant. I'm looking it up. The channel's called Screen Rant. The pitch meetings are fucking hilarious. this guy, Ryan George, does them, where he plays both the script writer who's pitching the meeting and the producer who's listening to the pitch. And it basically picks all the really obvious plot holes in the movies. You want a movie ruiner, watch the pitch meetings for where sometimes it feels a little bit smug, but I find them really entertaining. But yeah, they shoot plot holes in all the movies. And they're really good. Sorry, Justin, you hit a point. Someone in the church may say you're forgiven, but this is about God, and God's not going to be fooled. An individual priest, yeah, sure, they'll say you're forgiven, but the central premise of the angel's plan was God's forgiveness, and God's not gonna fail to notice that their intention is evil, because they're actually quite open about the fact their intention is evil. So they could go to a priest and get forgiveness because the priest wouldn't know about their intention, but God's going to know about their intention. So that's where it falls down. Oh, David, you're my age. Depeche Mode, I don't want to start any blasphemous rumors, but I think that God has a sick sense of humor, and when I die, I expect to find him laughing. Yeah, misfoxification, that was the point, but it was fatally flawed. It was logically completely unsupportable. The forgiveness comes from God, not from the church. The thing was they were going to prove God fallible, but God would see through what they were doing and would do anything. Mitchell, do I know anything about Rod Culleton and Privy Council? No. What I do know is it's 10 o'clock. I'm going to go to bed because I'm an old man, and that seems like a good time to go to bed to me, even though I don't have to get up early in the morning. But I am going to go. But I will thank you, wonderful people, for your time. As per usual, I have thoroughly enjoyed spending time with you. I hope you all look after yourselves, because I would like to see you all again soon. I'll see if I can get my shit together and post a TFU video. I've got a new version of my editing software that has all these neat new features. And I used one in a tiny little way on my Wangafat Wednesday video to a point that people probably didn't even really notice. But I have a couple of ideas to play with the additional features, my editing software. So you might see some slightly different, slightly weird things in upcoming videos. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know how much I can be bothered to learn new techniques, but we will see. Good night, Petty Wallaby. Thank you for dropping by. I know you just got here towards the end. I am an old man and I do need to get my sleep. I will see all you fine people soon, I hope, and I hope you take care of yourselves and have a good time. And I will say bye for now.